Today, we are going to be talking about triggers, but understanding that our emotions, especially those strong emotions that come up when we're triggered, they are a form of energy that when we can start to interpret and understand this energy, we can make this crucial shift from reacting to everything that takes over our nervous system and move into a place, and this is the goal for us today in this next 20 minutes or so where we're going to walk through Connect Decks, move into what's called resonance. So from reactivity to resonance, and both involve our energy. And so that's why I called this session or this call today, Understanding Your Energy, because all emotion is energy. If you think of even the word emotion, emotion, energy in motion. And that energy can take many different forms. We can be triggered by pretty much anything, our thoughts, images, sounds, smells. Big one is other people's actions or inactions. So someone maybe withholding, maybe giving us the silent treatment, dragging their heels in a project. That can be very triggering for those of us who have had histories of that, maybe coming from childhood, where people have withdrawn love and gone kind of cold when our behavior doesn't match what they want. News stories can trigger us. Facebook posts can trigger us. Songs, stories that people just tell us secondhand. That's called vicarious trauma, when we're hearing about another person's pain or suffering, and then it triggers us. So many things can trigger us. And what happens when a trigger is present is that we're reminded of something from our past, a past pain that's buried in a memory that isn't fully conscious. And what happens is that our amygdala gets activated and the limbic system gets activated. And these are areas of the brain that we share with mammals. And so what do mammals do? They go into fight or flight, right? So we've all heard that term probably before. And what it basically means is just survival mode. Animals are genetically and biologically wired for survival. And when we get triggered and that amygdala gets activated, that's what goes into high gear. It kind of takes over because it bypasses and doesn't allow executive functioning parts of the brain to kick in and bring logic and reason and regulation. And so we start to, in a kind of primitive way, when these emotions are stirred up, think or react in a way that we're experiencing that original crisis or that original pain point or trauma. And that's why our behavior can seem so out of character. And I wanted to kind of explain that to those of you that might not have a background in understanding how the brain works or how trauma works or how triggers work, so that you know the bottom line is a lot of these types of reactions are automatic. So to beat ourselves up for this, or to be hard on ourselves or judge ourselves for ways that we behaved when we were in survival mode is not going to be helpful and can be very harmful. And so just bringing some compassion and some understanding to that today is really my goal. And to help you walk through a specific thing that might be, when I mentioned, what's triggering you right now, this is an opportunity for you to walk through it in a way where we can convert that energy and take it from reaction into, as I was saying before, resonance. So that's when we start to become masters of our energy, when we can take that information, because that's what emotions are. They're simply information, they're signals. Take that information and use it to create more awareness and instantly shift from that survival reaction mode into resonance, which is more harmonious. And that's the goal, right? We want to be more, in a more harmonious state day to day. So I'm so glad that you're able to join us. And if you're listening on the replay, welcome. I'm going to be sharing some images today from the new ConnectX app. But I have some images from the app, so you guys are getting a sneak peek. And I thought it would be helpful to use that today as our guide and walk through a trigger. So when you enter the app, you'll see a little quote. So the first step in the ConnectX process is to just name that situation, that trigger. So moving over into your own life, where in life do you feel this reactive energy cropping up? And just take a moment to either write or just clarify in your mind what that situation is, the present situation. So we're not looking to the past yet, but what presently is triggering. And then take a minute to go through your cards. And if you were to enter into the app, you'll see that you'll be able to scroll through all the different feelings words. And there are 38 of them, just like in your card decks. And you'll be asked to choose up to 6, because that's as many as can fit on the screen. And so, how are you feeling? When this trigger is present, what emotions are stirred up for you? Remembering that we're using our feelings as information here. And so in that act, that's already helping to calm that overactive limbic system, that overactive amygdala. And it's bringing us into more of that resonant energy that I was mentioning. So how does this make you feel? How do you feel when you're triggered? And then take a minute to just scan your physical body, and let's just feel for the sensation when you recall the situation in your mind. Where do you feel it? Where does this trigger point sit in your body? You might want to close your eyes and just notice, is it your jaw that tightens? Do you feel it in the pit of your stomach? Where do you notice it? Again, all of this is to become more connected and to bring yourself more into resonance with the information that's coming to you. And understanding this energy that's sort of firing up can be really helpful information. So the next step that the app or the cards will lead you to is to narrow down your choices. So all the feelings that you chose to your 3 strongest feelings. So here I've just chosen some examples. So you'll see along the bottom, my 3 top feelings were withdrawn, torn, and joyful. And they would have appeared up here in these boxes. But what are your top 3 if you chose more than 3? And it's not that all of the feelings aren't important, but sometimes, like in this example, I was going with the example I shared about this trigger on parenting. And hopeless initially was a feeling that I chose. And then as I went to this next stage and I started to narrow down, I realized I think I was feeling hopeless maybe while I was in that triggered state. But once my brain started to calm down and center, I realized hopeless wasn't actually the strongest feeling I was experiencing. And that was really encouraging to me. So you can see how the process is really systematically leading you into a calmer state. So your 3 top feelings here, they're holding really important information. And the information that they hold is brought to light in the I need section. And so what are the needs that these feelings, these important messengers, what are the needs that they're signaling to us that are unmet, perhaps for us right now? So I am feeling withdrawn because I need what? I'm feeling frustrated because I need. And then you would go through all your needed cards, or you would scroll the deck here digitally, and you'd have choice of up to 6 as well. So if you don't have your cards with you, you have a few needs there in front of you. I don't have the charts up today, but just tapping into your awareness thus far in being a part of these calls. What is it that you need? And this process that we're going through is one, again, of clarifying down. So can you take those needs, all important, but can you narrow those to your 3 most essential needs? So what is it that is really speaking out to you right now that you need the most? To help bring you into more resonance, to help bring you into a place of feeling safe and feeling connected. And a lot of the time, it's really about understanding what we're doing here, which is an act of self-empathy. So there are lots of different methods or varieties of using feelings and needs as a way to understand um, what's going on. And it's based in what's called nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. And a lot of the focus of nonviolent communication is on our interactions with others. And what sets ConnectX apart is that we are solely focused on self-empathy. So we're only looking at this stage at acknowledging what it is that we feel and what it is that we need, because especially as women, a lot of our needs went unmet in life, and men too. I don't want to just say that this is only for women, but many women, in our age group, in our 40s and 50s, were socialized to put other people first, to put our needs on the back burner. We may have even been told our needs didn't matter. And so creating a process that focuses solely on self-empathy is what my passion is, because that's part of the healing I think the feminine in general is going through, and helping create alternative response patterns when these feelings crop up and we may be socialized again to invalidate them because we had been invalidated for probably a lot of years. I would guess some of you grew up without ever even being asked how you felt or what you needed. And so I'm grateful for the process, and I have tailored it in my own way to lead to the intuitive work that we're going to do in our next step, because I believe it is a beautiful foundation and building block to getting back to our authentic self and getting back to our most vital and our most alive and empowered self. So just giving yourself that self-empathy. I feel because I need, and just sometimes I like to just sit with that and just sit on with those cards in front of me and validate that for myself. And sometimes we have to go a little over what might feel like overboard to balance out the lack of compassion and validation we experienced when we were young. And this point in the app, we built in 1 minute of just relaxation. So let's do that together. And this is like a little image that opens and closes, encouraging you to breathe. So let's just take some slow, deep breaths together. So breathing in and exhaling. Doing a couple shoulder rolls and just breathing in again through the nose. And exhale. Good. So moving into inspiration, and the intuitive is a very feminine quality. It's the counterpart to reason or analyzing or logic. It's going into that creative consciousness that is sometimes blocked when our feelings are so overwhelming. I know from myself, and I'm sure you will agree, whenever I've been in a triggered state, it's like my intuition just shuts down. It's like I don't have access. And I might think I'm getting intuitive messages, but they're actually just, a lot of it is fear. And that's another call. I think we could spend a lot of time dissecting the difference between the voice of intuition and the voice of fear, because the messages can be similar, but it's really about the quality of how it shows up. And intuition always presents, and it always speaks gently and calmly to us, whereas fear is full of anxiety, fear, and panic. So that's one way to tell the difference. But now that we've brought those emotions into a more regulated state, use them as information to uncover those needs, let's go into our creative consciousness now and ask, what does my soul want me to know now that I've worked through some of this stuff, now that I've taken more control of this energy in a way that's going to benefit me? Now let's tap into that higher energy that's going to lead us in the most beneficial path. So on the app, you'll have a chance to scroll through randomly and pick a card. And if you have your inspiration cards with you, please feel free to take this moment now to just hold that intention. What does my soul want me to know about this situation? And notice any impressions or ideas that come to you. And I'll offer a symbol from the new deck for those that may not have their card. This could be your symbol today. So let's just take a moment and meditate on that symbol or the word or both. Asking the question, what does my soul want me to know? And just notice what comes to you without really having to reach for it. Just let that float into your awareness. What does this remind you of? What do you see? What's the message? And as always, I encourage you to take some notes and journal any of that insight that came from your higher wisdom. And just notice how you feel right now compared to maybe when you first brought this into your mind. And you've just learned now a series of steps that can help you shift that energy, accepting it as information and bringing it into resonance and start to master and have that energy work for you. That's what we've just done. We've really just transformed our energy, which is an amazing thing. So it's all about awareness. And again, I just want to repeat, like I mentioned at the start, that the activation of a trigger often spurs us into action before we can even really register what's going on. That's why it's called a trigger, because it's an instant response. And these memories that aren't fully conscious to us at the time, right? They're something's reminding us of a past pain, but they continue to influence our current behavior. And that's why it's worth taking a look at. It's why it's worth investing in understanding what are our triggers and how we can use the ConnectX process to work through that at a pace that changes the patterns and helps replace them with a new pattern that serves our well-being.